Welcome to Season 2 of the Fearless Launching Podcast. I'm your host, Ann Samoilov. Today, we are actually talking about podcasts, why you might want to take a hiatus, what to know before starting a podcast that maybe will ensure that you don't have to take a hiatus, and so much more. I am thrilled to be back. I can't wait to dive into today's episode, and I want to thank you for listening. If you listen to some of those bonus episodes, awesome. And I'm just excited. Let's get this party started. It's been a 2-month hiatus. I purposely did that for the very first time in the podcast's history. And I can't believe this, but we've literally been going since 2015. So there's a lot of episodes to catch up on. So if you are just joining us for the first time, well, welcome. But if you want to listen to some really great episodes with lots of amazing guests, some of them are just me, but I have invited over the years many of my favorite people who really inspire me, complete strangers some of the time, who have become dear friends since. Now, today's episode is going to be completely raw, uncut. Hopefully you're not going to hear my cat meowing in the background, but I wanted to, here's the deal. My team is on hiatus still, and I wanted to do them a solid. Well, actually, as of the date that this gets released, they're not on hiatus anymore, but I didn't want to wait a week. I didn't want to make them have to do something literally their first day, turn around something. So I just said, you know what? I'm going to record something, and I'm going to share some specific things about why we did the hiatus, but also I figured, I'm just going to upload it myself, make it happen, and I'm just thrilled to be back. It was definitely a much needed break, but I'm going to talk about that in a little bit. First, I wanted to talk to you about something that I think many of you are going to be interested in, and that's just podcast production. How do you get these podcasts done? So many people that are in my personal world, so many friends, and so many people I've known over the years, they have podcasts, or they're deciding to do podcasts. And I know there's tons of courses out there. There's tons, and I'm going to probably put as many as I can think of in the show notes. I know lots of people who can help you with these, or people who I think you should follow, who are doing some amazing, amazing things. But I wanted to just share kind of how I approach doing a podcast. So if you're thinking about it, these are just those initial things that I think decisions you got to make right out of the gate. And what I suggest, even if, you think you know what to do. Okay, so we're going to do that first, and then I'm going to talk about some kind of secrets to getting things done, and then we're going to go into why I've now changed the format and scheduling of this podcast, and what you can expect in the coming months and years, hopefully. Okay, so first of all, I think it's really important to just state that keeping a podcast going, it's hard work, okay? And even when you aren't the one editing it, it can be hard work. I remember for the first couple of years, I was just, popping audio files into GarageBand, doing like the intro, outro, etc. That alone made it, actually the editing part was easy, okay? But coming up with the content, making sure that I shared what I wanted to share, then creating the show notes, and then publishing, and then promoting. That's a lot of work, okay? It is a lot of work. Don't kid yourself. It's not as simple as, and I think it's important to know that, because those extra things, not just the coming up with the right content, and then recording the content and editing the content, and then spreading that content out, and then spreading what you're sharing out to the world. You got to do that, or why are you doing it? iTunes is going to do some of the work for you, but you have to know that there's more than just coming up with a great concept for a show and recording. That's just the reality of it. So here are just 3 things that I really think are important. And if I were going to start over again, maybe there's going to be more than 3. So I'm just going to say, here are some things, because I kind of go off sometimes. I'll get like a thought, and even though there's an outline and bullet points in front of me, I'm also thinking, I'm like, oh, what about this? So here's some things to think about if you're considering creating a podcast. So first of all, decide how many times you want the podcast to go live every week or every month. Now, when I first started, I actually only did it every other week. And then I realized I wanted to do it every week. The reason I initially started with every other week is because I just wasn't sure I could deliver. And you can certainly do that at the beginning. You can come up with a schedule that you're like, okay, just in case this isn't my jam, I'm only going to do this. But I actually feel like if I were to go back, I would have actually done 2 times a week. I'm not going to lie there, because I feel like 2 times a week is this interesting sweet spot that I've been seeing on many podcasts, where you can do maybe 1 episode a week is like your interview, and 1 episode a week is like your solo episode. It allows you to create kind of like a feature within your featured kind of types of content within your podcast, almost like you're a channel. Like today we're going to do the news episode, and tomorrow we're going to do, or on Thursday we're going to do the entertainment or puff piece or whatever. I say that loosely because I don't like to use puff piece as a way, but depending on what you're doing, maybe you have a fun thing and you have a serious thing. Okay. Now, the second thing that I recommend, and this is from the beginning, get help. You can find people who will edit and post everything, get it up to iTunes, get it into whatever podcast platform you're using, and you get someone to create the show notes for you and to create all the social media and make sure it gets shared. That you might actually be able to find someone to do for like $60 an episode. And if you think about it, you've got to ask yourself if that's worth it for you. And there are certainly people who charge much less. Like there's a book, How to Become a Capitalist Without Having Any Capital. I think that's the name of the book. One of our recent guests, in his book, he actually details how he uses Fiverr and another person to really batch out a ton of episodes all at once and get those all moving. I really think that that's the first thing that you should do, because it's somewhat difficult sometimes to keep the podcast going. So if you're doing everything yourself. So I would say get help ASAP. Okay. Get help with everything except your part of it. Because all I do every week, and I've done this now for the last 3 years, really, maybe 3 years, I record the intro, the outro, and the episode is usually an interview or something. And then I put all of those files in a specific place on Dropbox. I sometimes ask my team to write the show notes because I just can't. Sometimes I'm just like, I just can't. Please write it. But I'm changing the way that I do those show notes, as you'll probably see soon, and maybe even on this one, where the show notes aren't so intense. They don't have to be a long blog post, okay? That's what I'm going to be doing. But it's up to you. But there are so many pieces. So the next is, okay, so first thing I want to tell you is, like, I kind of alluded to the batching thing. Man, if you can batch. There's a woman in Fearless Launching, and she's been in the Message Lab, my Message Lab program, which is launching very soon. And she's been in pretty much everything I've ever offered. And this woman is the batching queen. Her name is Kirsten Pressler, and she works with creatives and artists to really kind of break that starving artist mode, but she really helps them set up their businesses. Anyway, so she batches her entire season. I'm like, are you joking me? That is the dream scenario. Record as much as you can in advance. And right now what I'm doing is I'm trying to do that with my guests, because the guests mean you're showing up for another person. And then I'm going to just batch a bunch of solo episodes that we can pop in anytime we want to. Okay. So yeah, I really say get help and try to batch as much as you can. So the next thing that I wanted to share is deciding on your content. This part is fun because I just love this part, but it can get a little out of hand. And this is actually, we'll go into this at the end, but there's a reason why, this is part of the reason why I decided to do a little hiatus during the summer. It's only one of the reasons. There's many other reasons not related to the business or podcast that I did this. However, it was just perfect. It was like perfect divine timing. But when you're deciding on the content, so you come up with your concept for the show. Now, hopefully, you're connecting it to the rest of your business, first of all. Hopefully, it somehow connects with the overarching topic, industry you're in, because when it comes down to it, your podcast is such an important part of it's an important piece of the way that people are going to discover you. And if they're discovering you for something completely not related to what you sell, then why are you doing it? Except maybe you love podcasting. But there's a reason why the podcast is called Fearless Launching, because I like to talk about anything related to that process of getting your ideas out there, knowing that I am at some point going to tell you about my Fearless Launching program. Okay. So your content, when you're coming up with that weekly, monthly, whatever your schedule is, you want to be creating content that connects with your products. It's not enough that your podcast is called whatever, Fearless Launching. You've got to do specific episodes that are going to make it easy for you to just say, hey, and if you like this episode, we go into detail on this communication strategy inside my program, Fearless Launching. And you can watch a webinar here, or you can download a roadmap here, or whatever it is that you might say for yourself. And you want to connect your ongoing content to what you're offering, to your opt-ins, which, by the way, your opt-ins should also connect directly to your products. This is like the easy thing to do. And I know that there are going to be times when you're like, well, maybe I just want to do just a random episode. And that's fine. But be conscious of the percentage of time you're doing these random topics. Make sure that you are able to connect them back to whatever it is that you're selling. And you can do special episodes that connect to special things once in a while. I know that. And you could even do this if you're doing a video podcast, because there are people who are doing video, exporting that audio and making it videos that they can upload to YouTube, and also put on and then export that audio to use as audio podcasts. So there's a woman that I worked with for a brief amount of time. She hired me just to be a sounding board. They were doing a lot of, having a lot of changes in their business. And she batched video for the entire year too. That woman is amazing. But anyways, what I wanted to say is every single video connected to an opt-in, something of value. And I'm not even just talking about these, simple downloads, or what are they called? I know that they're called something. Why am I forgetting the name? Anyways, I think you know what I mean. Like there's like a special download every single episode, and they're usually different. I'm talking about your main opt-ins, like your roadmap, your workbook, your whatever, your video series, whatever it is for you. You might have a couple of different things. And for her, every single time she kind of would like rotate between them. Okay. So that way she wasn't like saying, join my program. She was like, hey, listen to this audio training. It'll help you do this. And in that audio training, she did sell something, but it was important for her to be able to connect to a very specific opt-in. So I think that's important. Okay. The next thing I want to suggest that you do, and this is really something, if you're working alone, you still should do this, because this will encourage you. This will make it easy for you to hire people when you're like, I'm done editing. I'm done with you, GarageBand, because there was a point where I hit a wall with GarageBand and I'm like, I can't handle this anymore. I'm going to go nuts. And plus I just didn't want to be like clogging up my computer with all the files. And I think something was happening with GarageBand at the time where they kept changing it, telling me to update, but the new version didn't really have a good podcasting part of it. Now it's fine. But there was a period of time where I was like getting so annoyed. It was like adding this weird echo onto all of my audio, and I wasn't doing it. So I'm like, no, I'm not in a concert hall reciting something about launching for this podcast. So anyways, that's my own little personal problem. But create a list the process that you go through. So create a template. It's really a template. You're creating a list of everything you're going to do for the podcast. Each micro task, topic, or guest name, or record episode, record intro, record outro, upload to Dropbox. Write down every single step of the process as you do it. And I actually put this inside Asana. It's a template for us inside Asana, so that every time we have a new episode, we just copy that and then we change all the details. And that's where I pop in the link to Dropbox, and I pop in the Google Doc link so that they can grab the show notes. And it's where I might let them know, or I might upload pictures or some photos from the guests. Or it might be where I say, hey, here's the call to action. Make sure to put this at the very bottom of the episode. Like if we had a webinar going on, I might be say, hey, make sure that webinar ad is below the actual episode. Or it's where I might actually make sure that they have the affiliate links to products we mention that were mentioned during the episode. So do that for yourself, because then you're going to be able to get help with that in the future. Okay. And then the next thing, and this is part of like the getting help. I really think getting help is a great thing to do, because if you bring people in after the fact, it's hard to say, okay, I've got 4 years of content, start repurposing. But I think that it's really important to get help repurposing all your content. So in addition to just publishing it, that's one template. Then create like a list of places and formats you want to repurpose the content. So it might be these little wave clips that you put up on Instagram. It might be maybe you turn it into a blog post. Maybe you create a video. Maybe you do a Facebook Live. Whatever the things are, okay? Whatever the things are for you. Also, the template can also include an intro or music that you're going to use under the intro that happens every single episode. Maybe you have an outro kind of ad that you tag onto you edit onto the end of every single episode. These are just things to think about. And I mean, this is definitely by no means an exhaustive, here's how to podcast. I don't know, maybe in the future I will do that, but this is just some things that I was just thinking about. I'm like, oh yeah, we need to do a little bit better job at doing that. So now I want to share with you what we're going to be doing moving forward on the podcast and how things are changing. And this is where I share it's a little behind the scenes. It's a little, truth time. So for quite a while now, I'm going to say for a good year, this is me. I always make myself suffer for long periods of time before I make a decision to be like, nope, we're done here. And that is literally in every area of my life. I will stay friends with people. I have stayed in relationships for years, even when they were killing me slowly inside. So this one took a little less time. So I've been feeling behind the ball, stressed out. My team even gave me an ultimatum. They were like, you got to deliver these in advance or we're done. No, they didn't say it that hardcore, but they definitely were like, we need these 1 week in advance or we can't guarantee that they'll go up. And I was like, okay. Instead of a day in advance. So I was just stressed out. And honestly, there were several times I was just on the verge of quitting doing the podcast. And of course, what would always happen is a message from one of you would land in my inbox, or someone would message me or call me or text me that I know and be like, oh my gosh, I love that. I love what you said there. This was really good. I'm hearing your voice. Like I was like, okay, fine. I'm not going to quit. But there were so many times that I was like, okay, I can't be stressed out about this. But I was just able to connect with so many different people this way. And over the year, on coaching calls with people would be like, oh, it sounds like it's almost like I'm on your podcast because you're usually in my ears. So that was funny. But here's the other thing. I also kind of started feeling like, and this is what happened when I was blogging. When I first started blogging, I was talking about launching every single time I put up a blog post. And I hit a wall when I was doing that. I'm like, I'm done. I can't put launch in the title anymore. This is driving me crazy. But the same kind of thing happened. And I felt like I started not really sticking to what fearless launching was all about, and maybe even lost sight of it. Because for me, fearless launching isn't just, and I stick by this now too. Now I feel really clear about it, that fearless launching isn't just how to launch your products and services online. It's how to get your ideas out to the world. It's how to then put them in some form that and know which ideas are going to connect with people. It is about the strategy of it. It is about doing it in your own way, which is what we say in the intro, which you'll probably hear changing soon. But it is about making your own path there, not putting yourself in this box of like, okay, I'm going to create an online course, and then we're going to have a coaching program, and then I'm going to create a mastermind, and then we're going to do 1-day intensives or whatever. Whatever you're like, if you look at someone you respect online, sometimes we get into that habit of following like, oh, well, this is the business model I want. And all those things are fine, but I want people to know that they have a choice. You don't have to do anything. You don't have to do it like Amy Porterfield, even though we all love Amy, and me included. Like, we all love her. There are certain people that were like, everybody can agree. Yep, love her. And she's one of them. She's one of those people. Anyways, so we're going to be taking 2 months, 2 times a year, to recalibrate, reconnect with our kind of vision for the podcast. Perhaps sometimes we'll have themes for the upcoming podcast, and we'll kind of think through those. We'll be connecting with new guests, developing content, and more importantly, we'll be resting. I think this is the big deal. Because when you're stressed out, when you're kind of just like scampering around trying to find guests that might be interesting to your people, and you're like, I hope this one is good, you're not really thinking through things. And I should know this. This is what I preach inside Fearless Launching, inside everything I do. It's like the more you can do when you're like at that calm state, you're in flow mode, the better your work is going to be. If you do anything, you write your launch emails the last second, you create that webinar 2 days before you go live, you do all that stuff, and it's going to show. It just does. So it's not about working harder. It's just preparing yourself better, giving yourself, and I always like to say this, I want to give myself, my future self, that clarity and peace that actually just comes with knowing that you are prepared. So we're still going to stick to our once a week schedule for now. Once in a while, I'm giving myself permission to do these types of updates. If there's something that's going on and I'm like, oh my God, I got to jump on audio and just share this. Or if we do a Facebook Live and I want you to hear it, because if you're not on Facebook, believe me, there are a lot of people, a lot of you out there don't want to be on Facebook, and I totally get it. But I don't want you to miss out when we have a good, good Facebook Live, or there's something great happens that I just want to share with you. So we'll be doing those randomly throughout the year. Another thing that we're going to start doing, so if you are interested in this, you got to let me know. We haven't officially put out the call for it yet, but I am going to be doing not live, but I'll be doing coaching call style podcast episodes, which means once a month, I'm going to record an episode where I'm actually just coaching someone, and we're just going to share that with you. We're going to share us walking through whatever it is that person needed help with, so that you can hear what that's all about. And, of course, I want you to be like, oh, wow, I didn't know Ann did that, and maybe she can help me with that. So, but I also think that watching other people's transformation, you can just gain so much from those calls. I love doing those types of calls and then sharing them, and even watching them myself, of other people getting not critiqued, but coached. It's so invaluable. So you're going to love those. Our first 4 episodes, not including this one, we're talking to someone in the bioscience industry about understanding your audience. We're talking to one of my favorite, and pretty much my only favorite, lawyer. And we're going to be talking about a bunch of different things with her. We're talking with my photographer, the person who I'm calling my photographer because I have enjoyed working with him thus far, and we are going to keep that party train rolling. I'm going to tell you all about that. Don't worry. We are talking to a social worker / lawyer turned confidence and mindset coach. And in addition to that, we've got things like how to get better results as an affiliate, how to know when something's not working and how long to work on something and to keep focusing on it. You know, the one thing focus rule that people talk about, like when do you know when it's enough? We're talking about failure. We're also going to be talking to a chef, a productivity expert. I'm just like looking down the list here of all the upcoming episodes, and I'm literally just so excited because my goal for you this season is to really go in depth on some of the things below the surface that might be keeping you from launching, but that actually help you launch too. I don't want to just talk about all the things that are dragging you down, but what are the things we can focus on that actually do help you get to the launch date? So there will be a mix of the strategy, of the how-to and all of that. And yeah, I'm just excited about that. I'm excited to share all that with you. So here's what you can do. If you listen today, I really hope that you will look at your phone right now, do a quick little screenshot, and then post this over on Instagram. Yeah, on Instagram, tag me at Ann Samoilov and just say, I'm excited for season 2. I'm excited you're back. Finally, you're back, or something like that. Because I got to know that you're listening. I want to know that and I'm going to share it on my feed too, just so you know. And I usually like to say something personal about every single person who posts something or shares something of mine. I would so appreciate that. So just tag me at Ann Samoilov and I will post that. I'll reshare it. Okay, so I think I talked enough. It's like 27 minutes in. So we'll see you next week, next Thursday, with our first interview of season 2. And I just want to say I'm so grateful that I've had this time to really rethink what was happening with this podcast, because when you build something, you can lose sight of things. You can lose sight of where you want it to go. And so I'm hoping that this new structure will just keep us focused. Really, that's it. That's the only reason I'm doing. That's the reason why we're back, is because I've been able to totally refocus and, batch the content. I'm batching, team. I'm trying here. So hopefully we can stay a couple months ahead, which we are at right now, and then give you guys the best experience ever. That's it. I hope you have had a wonderful summer. Can you believe it's fall? It's kind of fall. Well, August is really the end of summer, so I'm not going to push it. But I am so excited to be back, and I will see you next week. Take care.